Well, good Wednesday morning. My name is meteorologist Craig Moeller, and we're going to talk about a significant weather event that is taking shape in the central U.S. Now, if you are watching right now from around the mid-Atlantic, this is where our station's located. I can tell you the weather here in the mid-Atlantic, everything looks fine, but it is a totally different story what's taking shape back across the central U.S. And because we are able to reach folks all around the country, and we do have a lot of folks interested in this developing severe weather situation across the central U.S., I wanted to spend some time with you this morning really diving in and taking a closer look at what is going to be happening across Missouri, southern Illinois, parts of western Kentucky and Tennessee. The Storm Prediction Center, which is based out of Norman, Oklahoma, they have put out an outlook for severe weather today that takes it to a level 5. And we'll talk more about that as we go along here. But for this area in here, we don't get to level 5 very often. We talk about 5 different levels. And, you know, frequently when there's chances for strong storms, we'll be in a 1 or a 2, sometimes an enhanced level 3 threat. Occasionally you get up to 4, and today it's all the way up to a level 5. And there is a very good chance for tornadoes, and the Storm Prediction Center is predicting a tornado outbreak later today and into the evening. So I want to talk to you about what's been going on. We had some watches out there earlier over western parts of Missouri. The Storm Prediction Center just added a new watch to include the St. Louis area. That was posted at 8:45, and it will run into the early afternoon. So you take a look here, and I'm actually going to walk over to another part of the studio where I can manipulate the radar a little bit more and show you what's happening here in more detail. That is a live radar sweep, and that is located Weldon Springs, Missouri, just to the west of St. Louis. And I should mention very quickly, I formerly was serving as the chief meteorologist in St. Louis. I came back out to the East Coast into Norfolk, Virginia, serving Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and Northeast North Carolina, the Outer Banks. Spent a lot of time living here, but I did go back 3 years in St. Louis as a chief meteorologist at KSDK. Scott Connell and his team at KSDK Now, wonderful people, all colleagues of mine while I was there. Love those guys, and in fact, talked to Scott last night. Their team will be covering this locally in St. Louis. So if you are in St. Louis, you definitely want to stay tuned to 5 on Your Side. That's the NBC affiliate in St. Louis. It's our sister station here at Tegna. But I also can tell you that I am educated at the University of Missouri. Okay, Mizzou, located in Columbia, and I am very familiar. I worked for 4 or 5 years in Columbia starting out. So I know this area well, and I want to take some time again to alert people to what's coming together there in terms of the severe weather. So we're going to take a little closer look right now, and you can see just north of St. Louis up around Bowling Green, and this is actually now in the westernmost part of Illinois, Pittsfield, and you can see back up towards Jacksonville, Illinois, we have a severe thunderstorm warning. Now, I'll talk about these. The threat with this is large hail. Radar estimated hail size over 1 inch and winds gusting around 60 miles per hour or so. This is the other thing I wanted to talk about right here. And again, this is just to the north of Boonville, Missouri. All right, there's a great little winery there in Boonville. You head up towards Fayette. They've got, again, this tornado warning that was issued. It's radar indicated. I have not had confirmation that it's down to the ground, but folks around Sturgeon and up towards Moberly want to stay very mindful of this cell as it is moving along. This is tracking off to the northeast, hail size just below severe criteria, but in this case, there's a potential for some rotation. Now, I am showing you a live sweep out of St. Louis, and again, that's the National Weather Service NEXRAD radar and the dual pole radar that they operate there. You get out towards central Missouri, Columbia, and specifically Boonville, Fayette. These areas, due to the curvature of the earth, the radar as it goes out gets a little higher up into the atmosphere. So we don't get quite the resolution with low-level rotations, but this storm system moving along so dynamic that they're able to, again, with the radar, pick up a little bit of rotation with that when they issued that warning. So we're going to continue to monitor that very, very carefully as we take a look here. I want to just let you know that these are moving along at a pretty good clip. As we zoom in a little closer, you can see a few more of the neighborhoods there. Pumpkin Center back over towards Higbee, just outside of that warning, but very much in line with how this thing is moving along. So again, I do want folks to know that this is a serious situation with this radar indicated rotation, the movement, and this will run through 10 a.m. Central, so another 20 minutes to this warning right here. Again, it's moving off to the northeast at about 65 miles per hour. So you think about that, again, tracking along very quickly. I'll go ahead and put a cone on this just to give you a feel for how this thing is moving in that direction and some of the little communities out there. These are smaller communities, but there are people that live there and people that are impacted. Moberly is pretty good size little town there at just around 10 o'clock arrival time in Moberly. So if it holds together, we'll see if it reaches that. Rennick, Ryder, Higbee, some of the smaller towns, again, in line with that tornado warning in central Missouri. So that's what's happening right there. We'll come back down to the south of that. We've got thunderstorm warnings, possible rotations, radar indicated. This is serving Benton, Camden, Dallas County, Hickory, Morgan, and Polk County. All of these in Missouri. Again, estimated hail size up to about an inch or so. So that one, not as great a threat of tornadic rotation, but again, some larger hail. And all of the severe weather threats are on the table. Now, down to the south of that, you get into Berry County, Christian, Greene, Lawrence, Polk, and Stone. Again, you've got large hail. This is a little misleading because this is literally at the edge of the St. Louis radar sweep. So what I want to do with that is I want to switch over to the Mosaic radar. And this shows all the different radars from around the country. It's not a live radar sweep, but rather this Mosaic radar, and you can see the line of intense activity back down through Mount Vernon and areas down to the south of that. Again, if you've ever been in Missouri, that part of the country in southwest Missouri, I'll show you. It's really not too far from Branson and Silver Dollar City there, very popular tourist destination just on the east end and just outside of that thunderstorm warning. But Cassville and some of the communities up through Boulevard, Mount Vernon, all of these areas in southwest Missouri under the warning. And I was talking earlier to one of our photographers. He was telling me he who had spent time down around Joplin, an area hit so hard by tornadoes, one of the worst ever to hit a very large EF5 tornado that struck Joplin years ago. They were under tornado warning earlier this morning, and obviously folks very stressed about that. Right now, the only tornado warning, and there have been a few already indicated back across Missouri. I think we've had 3 or 4 previous tornado warnings, but this one here, again in Fayette and moving off to the northeast at about 60, 65 miles per hour. This area here, we're going to continue to watch very close to Burton, Hocker School there, Ryder, some of the different communities as that particular cell would move along. So we're going to continue to monitor that. And again, down to the south, the potential for large hail. Now you take a look at the thunderstorm outlook, and this is what I was talking about a little earlier, what we are potentially going to deal with. I'm going to step over to the big board here, our monitor wall, and show you this area under this level 5 threat. So you take a look, and from the southern Great Lakes region, you see the lower part of the lower peninsula of Michigan, down through Ohio, Indiana, back through Illinois. This is all under a level 3 threat. If that were the case, there would be watches going up for a lot of these areas, and there would be concern later today as those storms work farther east for severe weather. And there is concern for that. But once you get into southern Indiana, southern Illinois, western parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, all the way down through northern Mississippi and eastern Arkansas into southeastern Missouri, you get to this 4th level. Widespread severe storms are anticipated as this line continues to move along. So we're very concerned with this particular area. And then you get into this area shaded in the pink or kind of magenta color here. That's at level 5, very widespread activity. And this does include Memphis. It includes Paducah. It includes areas of southern Illinois, back through the boot heel of Missouri and all the way down into Arkansas, Jonesboro, one of the areas that we're very concerned with. Now, it's not just hail. It's not just strong gusty winds. It's the tornadic threat that we're really concerned with here. And again, you see these areas shaded in different colors. This talks about, this is the way the Storm Prediction Center puts out the outlooks for tornadoes, and they figure there's a 5% chance for this area kind of shaded in this brownish color here. That's at level 2. A 5% chance that anywhere within 25 miles of a given point, you could have a tornado. All right. Doesn't sound like that great of a threat, but that is an elevated risk of tornadoes in that area. You get up into the yellow and into the red, and it becomes much more likely that you do have tornado warnings, and not just radar indicated, the type that actually form and touch down. Where you get into this hashed area, we're talking about a significant threat for significant tornadoes, where you could have long track tornadoes, a type that's touch down and stay on the ground. And in my experience as a broadcaster over the last 32 years or so, I have seen tornadoes come down, and we have tracked them. There's one back across southeast Missouri a number of years ago. I can't remember if it was 2017, maybe 2018. But anyway, there was that one tracked all the way across southern Illinois and lifted into Indiana. So we've had some of these long track tornadoes in the past, and this is what the concern is going to be later today, that we could see some of these. So you take a look again, the central U.S. today. The Storm Prediction Center bracing folks for numerous tornadoes, a tornado outbreak with multiple long-track tornadoes, EF3 or greater. So the potential for some very large and powerful tornadoes with this line. You take a look at our futurecast, and I've got this. This is based on the HRRR model. And the Cardinals have a scheduled baseball game at 12:15. I'm in communication with the stadium as well, just talking about when these storms may come impacting the stadium in the downtown area. You can see the line of storms, which is still out to the west. This is through 1:15 Eastern, 12:15 Central. That is the time that the game is scheduled to start. And I know stadium operations, the organization's in touch with Major League Baseball, and they're making determinations as to whether or not they're going to have to delay the start. If these storms come in a little earlier, they may delay the start. If they're a little farther west, they might try to get in a few innings. But it looks like storms are going to eventually impact that area as we go 2 o'clock Central Time. You see the storms kind of rolling in and through the area. 3, 4 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock Eastern. That's what you're seeing here. Now, what I really want to show you with the timing of this as we get into that afternoon time period, we're talking 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, southeast Missouri dealing with the daytime heating, and that's going to take place, again, with the winds coming up ahead of this frontal boundary that's coming into it. You're going to see warming temperatures and more instability here. So as we go late afternoon and evening, now we're watching this line for some really powerful cells that could develop. We're talking supercells with rotation potentially across parts of northeast Oklahoma into the boot heel. You see some of these cells that are really popping with this HRRR model here. You can see how some of these would be very powerful. Southern Illinois, potentially all the way up into Indiana. They continue to work eastward. By 8:30 or so Eastern, 7:30 Central, you can see that line cutting across southern Illinois through western Kentucky and reaching the areas around Memphis. Of course, some more heavy stuff down through Arkansas. And this is a time period that the Storm Prediction Center is so concerned here. Again, late afternoon and early evening in this part of the country. It will continue to work east, and we'll continue to watch this as it moves along. But as you take a look, and if my director wants to take this full, again, you can see some of those isolated heavier cells lining up across western parts of Tennessee. Now this is 11 o'clock Central, and I'll just go ahead and zoom in here, show you that line as it extends down across northern Louisiana and Texas. This is very serious, this situation, and this is what we are going to be concerned with. As you can see, this is through 11 o'clock Central, 12 o'clock or midnight Eastern, and back up into Ohio. That line continues to move. As we take it forward, let's say through about 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, that line again continuing to move to the east across Ohio. You can see some gusty winds, some hail associated with that, and the severe weather threat is back out to the east of that as we get into tomorrow. So what I want to do right now is I want to take you back to the live radar sweep, and we'll see what's happening with that cell. It looks like the tornado warning, let's see, they have gone ahead and allowed that to expire. So some very good news there for areas just off to the west of Columbia. That was the one that was north of Boonville. That cell is now moved up around the Moberly area, back over towards Middle Grove, up towards Woodlawn. You can see areas into northeast Missouri, looking at those heavy storms moving along. There is this severe thunderstorm warning until 11 o'clock. Again, Central Time, or until, 11 o'clock Eastern. That's a local timestamp. But anyway, coming up another 10 minutes or so on that one. And again, that is for Cass County, Fulton, Mason, Morgan, Schuyler, and Scott County in Illinois. As you come farther south, back towards the St. Louis area, the metro's getting a little bit of a break. But I do want to mention that St. Louis is under this watch until this early part of the afternoon. So for the St. Louis metro area, tornado watch, that just went into place, and it looks like they're extending it through the afternoon. So from this morning all the way through 4 o'clock this afternoon, let me tell you that. The one that was over western Missouri was scheduled to run through 1 o'clock. This one for the St. Louis metro area, for southern parts of Illinois and down through southeast Missouri, this one until 4 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock Eastern. And this does include those areas down Mountain View, Bunker, Ironton, St. Francois. You can see that area continuing down through West Plains. Beautiful Ozark River country down there, but those areas need to be very, very weather aware through the afternoon. So that's a look at what's happening right now. Again, that potential tornado outbreak, the big concern in the central part of the country. Watches are out. There will be more, and look for those warnings later on. Now, I will say for Hampton Roads, things are not looking too bad for us. We are going to find warm conditions, and very quickly, I'll just show you the outlook for the severe weather. Again, this is for today, day one. I mentioned the severe weather outlook all the way up through the Ohio River Valley. As we look ahead to tomorrow, day two, it slides farther to the east. Now, it's just a level 2 threat. Today is the great threat with level 4 and level 5 across a good section of the central U.S. But tomorrow, a level 2 threat, that's scattered severe storms potentially across northern Virginia up into Maryland and southern Pennsylvania. So it does work farther to the east, and you'll see the lower part of that still extends all the way down through Texas. So we're going to continue to watch that, but it's today that severe threat right there where you see not a level 1 and 2, but a level 5 threat from Arkansas all the way up through the Boot Heel, southern Illinois, and western parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. That is the area of greatest concern. And again, this afternoon and then into the evening for these areas, that's when most likely tornadoes will develop. An outbreak is expected with potential for long track tornadoes, potentially EF3 or higher. So again, I will really encourage you to stay tuned to a trusted local weather source to be able to cover that. But here at 13 News Now, with weather impacting any part of the country, we want to keep a close eye to all of that. And our team of meteorologists here actually works in support of sister stations all across the country. You can bet we'll be watching that and keeping folks updated as storms do develop later today. I'm going to sign off for now from Norfolk, Virginia. But again, stay tuned, stay weather aware, especially if you're in this part of the country. And again, have a trusted source that you can turn to. Keep your cell phones charged up and make sure you have ways to get alerts if warnings are issued where you live. Be careful out there.